to Mel and Mike's first weekly update. We're working on the name, but really the purpose of this video is to give you a quick recap of what you might have missed last week, and then going into next week, what you need to make sure you've time blocked in your calendar.
What did we have on the show last week, Mel?
Oh my goodness, so last week, if you didn't hear, we went to Shift into Overthrive in Mississauga, where we were with 1,200 agents from Keller Williams Canada, but also guests from other brands as well. And again, if you missed it, honestly, you should have been there, but we've got you. We've got the official slide deck from Shift into Overthrive. But let's talk about it for a moment. I mean, there is a lot to unpack, and I don't think we're gonna have time today to go through everything. But I wanted to share my key takeaway from there. So this was the first time I actually got to see Mark King, president of Keller Williams, talk, and he was absolutely incredible.
Fantastic.
Yes, and don't get me wrong, all the speakers were amazing. They all came with value, and there's probably at least one or two things I can take away from each of them and just go implement today.
For sure.
Mark King, though, talked about getting back to the basics in our business and real estate, right? And really, we shouldn't have ever left them, but let's admit that the last 2 years were crazy,
It was
right?
a great train. You didn't have to try.
Yeah.
You just had to show up.
Show up and you have buyers contacting you, right?
So not a business model that lasts.
No, it isn't. And we're starting to realize that in 2023 as the market is shifting, and Mike is going to give us a market update in a bit. But really, it's getting back to the basics, getting back to the systems and models, and no better place to do it than here at Keller Williams. So that was my
100%.
How about you, Mike?
So I dove a little bit deeper into what he was talking about with the fundamentals, and primarily that was database. If there was one takeaway, it was build and grow a database. Mark couldn't have told us it in any plainer English than that. The only asset that you build as a realtor is your database.
Right.
You know, he even made mention that he only had 375 people in his database.
Right.
Do you remember what he said he sold it for?
Yep.
$1 million.
$1 million.
375 people. So, can you put 375 people into your database? Make sure it's organized, and you can utilize this to predict your business. Why not build $1 million asset?
Absolutely. In fact, we talk about this twice a week in our 201 club. So if you haven't attended, again, another thing to time block on your calendar, 201 club every Tuesday and Friday with Kyle Craig, where we talk about building a database, adding contacts, and then nurturing that database so that you are building a business that is sellable. This is what we do here that's different from every other brokerage, is we're helping you build a business. You are entrepreneurs. You are not just real estate agents.
14 years ago, when I started at KW for the first time, the first thing that I was taught, aside from the fact that we had to do lead generation, which I had no idea was the case when I started real estate. Who does, right?
Right. It's
But
like
it was,
sunset, right?
what's the most important thing that you can do every single day? Build your database. It was the first thing that I was taught 14 years ago, and that's just Keller Williams too.
Yeah.
Build your systems, build your database.
And 14 years later, that is still the case. So
Hasn't changed.
exactly. So encourage you to go through that slide deck. We're going to attach it to the email. If you have any questions, just reach out. All right. What's on the calendar for next week? Okay, you need to time block. At least if there's one event you're going to attend, if there's one day you're going to time block, it's February 9th, where we're going to have Power Day from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then we're going to lead into our shift class. So we're going to talk about 12 tactics for a tough market, led by yourself and Andre. I'm looking so forward to that. But Mike, let's go back to Power Day. This is going to be my first Power Day.
Yep.
What can we expect on Power Day?
Hype. So what's going to happen is we all get together in the training room. We come with our laptops, log into telelisting, or if you've got your database, you've got a bunch of follow-up to do, whatever it's looking like for you that morning. And we are all gonna hammer the phones together.
Nice.
It's going to be like 3 hours of lead gen, like we block out every day, right? From 9 till 12 every day.
Yeah, of course, I do.
Okay.
Do you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Except for we're gonna do it all together. So typically what'll happen is you're either on the phones, or if you prefer to be at the doors, you can go door knocking for a few hours, or do a combination of both. Then we're going to compare our numbers. We're going to see who's able to set the most appointments from that morning.
Yeah.
And typically there's a prize.
We're going to have a prize, and let me tell you, I'm pretty competitive. How about you?
I don't know.
Yeah. We're going to have a prize. I'm going to be lead genning with you. Mike's going to be lead genning with you. And like Mike said, it doesn't necessarily have to be cold calls. These could be social media messages, these could be follow-ups, this could be your sphere of influence, whatever it is. We're gonna be booking those appointments together on February 9th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then heading into our shift class. All right, so let's get into the market, right? And if you don't know already, if you missed the announcement, Mike Magna is our official broker of record. So who better to ask in terms of what is the market looking like, Mike?
Sure. So let's break down January. So we've come out of the holidays. First week a little bit slow. Of course, there wasn't a ton of new listings right out of the gates. That's typical. What we did see was in the second week of January, we started to see approximately 130 homes come to the market. We saw about 90 sell.
Okay.
That's including both conditionals and pendings. All right. So these are homes that have been pulled off the market one reason or another for sale. 25 expires, that's typical. That hasn't changed all month. We see about 25 to 30 expires on a weekly basis. Week 2, we saw a little bit of an increase in listings up to about 131, 132, and 95 to 100 selling. By the time we got to last week though, here's where we saw the difference. Last week we saw 130 properties come to market. We saw 133 get sold.
Wow.
Okay, so what is that telling us? That's telling us that supply and demand gap shrunk, and there was actually more buyers than sellers out last week.
Right.
So if there's one thing that we know about having more buyers than sellers, what does that typically do to pricing?
Right.
It starts to pop it up, right? So 2 examples of what went down last week that sort of brings us back to those crazy times. It's a property on Kilcairn Crescent in Brigadoon, 35 offers.
Wow.
Yeah, listed for $699, single attached house, sold for $851. So we saw $150,000 over the asking price on that one. There's
Yeah.
another property, I think it was 118 McGregor in
Okay.
Waterloo.
Yeah.
That property was listed for $399. It was a single detached, but it was a gut job.
Okay.
This needed to be completely run on top to bottom.
Yeah.
17 offers came in, sold for $650.
So is that the strategy you're seeing then, is list under to encourage multiple offers?
So for the first time ever, I'm kind of saying that this is a double market. It doesn't even make sense. We've never really experienced that,
Right.
but let me explain, double market.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so if you look at the metrics that we have that typically determines what market we're in, sellers, buyers, balance.
Yeah.
Okay, we have properties being sold on average under 30 days. That
Okay.
metrics points to a seller's market.
Okay.
We've got less than 3 months of inventory out there on the market. I believe it's around 2 right now.
Right.
So if nothing else listed, everything would be sold in a couple months.
Okay.
Okay? Again, under 3 months,
Yeah.
seller's market.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're seeing is that if you have a property that's, doesn't need to be unique,
Yeah.
but that's in good condition,
Mhm.
in a great neighborhood,
Yeah.
priced properly,
Right.
marketed well,
Yeah.
that property is going to get sold. It's going to get sold in multiple offers. Last week again, property in Preston, didn't even make it 24 hours, didn't make it to offer date,
Right.
went into multiple, sold.
Incredible. So are people still holding offers? Is that a strategy you're seeing with sellers?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it depends on the conversations you're having with your sellers.
Right.
So if you're able to have the hard conversations and get the property at a proper price point,
Yeah.
where it should be, absolutely, you can list low and go high.
Right.
Now, those are 2 big examples of going to 150 and 200 over the asking price,
Sure.
but to see 70 and 80,000 right now is not uncommon.
Right.
But when I say double market, it feels like it's a buyer's market too, right? And
It
that's because
does.
our buyers are all over Facebook.
Mhm.
They're all over Instagram. They're all over the negative news media that's
Yes.
coming out saying 40% drops, 30% drops.
Yeah.
So in their minds, they're in control
Yeah.
until they get into multiple offers and realize I'm not so much in
Right.
control. But there's properties out there where the sellers also are still thinking too high from that year ago.
For
So
sure.
when properties aren't priced properly, what's
Yeah.
happening? They're gonna sit.
They're
We're
sitting
seeing
there.
properties on the market 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
What does that allow for? That allows for buyers to maybe come in and find a deal from time to time.
Right, right. So you heard it here, we're in a double market. It is our job as agents to educate our buyers and our sellers that we work with and present the facts. If you need scripts, if you need objection handlers, please reach out. I mean, we have all the resources available to you, but I hope those examples help as you're having these conversations with your database. All right, So that about wraps it up. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope this was helpful. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.
See you next week.